if you want to make it interactive, you have to get into scripting. You have to get into web scripting. Web scripting is not even introduced until you get to CISW 310, which is Advanced Web Publishing. In other words, you can look at 310, CISW 310, as the advanced version of CISW 300. So in this class, this course builds upon the previous web publishing concepts and study, basically W300. The primary focus of this class is the systematic development of interactive websites. Topics include cascading style sheets, dynamic HTML, forms, okay, because you need to have forms in order to take information from a web page. Client-side scripting with JavaScript, and there are a lot of fun stuff you can do with JavaScript other than really functional stuff. Common gateway interface CGI scripting. This is happening on the server side with Perl and web database interactivity. Okay, so this is the entry point of web scripting. In other words, you are writing a program in this case. Okay, you're writing a program or programs in this case to make your web page interactive. Yes.
So how much is CGI still used? Still used a lot?
CGI is basically a blanket term to cover all web scripting. So if you think about it, just about any website now is script. There are very, very few web pages that are completely static. Most web pages are now fully interactive. Sometimes you can't even see it. It can be interactive and not see it. I can show you one that doesn't look interactive, but it actually is interactive, at least from the other side's perspective. Okay. So if I go back to a browser and go to my own website, so if you go to drtech.org/modules, teachers and then modules, okay, and you press the enter key, it will give you a list of all the modules that I have written to date, okay, which is about 228 or something like that, on a variety of topics. Every time I have to teach a particular topic, I will write a module, because I think, if I cannot write a module to describe it, I should not be teaching it, okay? With the exception of this class, because in this class, there's a whole lot of details, and I was told explicitly that I should be using a textbook and not my own notes. So that's why I have to use a textbook, and that's why you guys have to pay $100 for a textbook. It's not my fault, exactly. So this looks like, this does not even have graphics. I mean, this whole thing is boring, but it is actually dynamically generated, okay? In other words, every time I upload a new module, this will pick it up and automatically list that new module because it is interactive. Every time someone accesses this page here, it is actually running a script. The script in return will scan all the subfolders of this particular folder. It will look for modules. It will go into the module files, look for the heading, and put it on the page here. So that part is completely script. Okay. Now we can also go to the Power Server. How many people know what is the Power Server? Nope. Okay. When you take a web class here, you will get a Power Server account. I can just show you what a Power Server looks like. So the Power Server is an on-campus resource that is also accessible from anywhere you have internet. And its primary purpose is really just as it's web hosting in a certain way for our own students. If you take at least one web-related class, you will get an account on this server, okay? And if you look at this, okay, let me just turn off the front bank of the light, because Carol likes, the space background kind of thingy, but sometimes it makes the contrast too low and it's really hard to see stuff. So when you look at this, you will say, oh, this looks completely non-interactive. I mean, it's just, a list of classes and students enrolled in each class. It doesn't look interactive at all. There are no forms, right? I don't see any forms here. I don't see any way you can enter something or even buttons of any kind. But this is actually interactive. It's interactive not in a way that it will interact with the end user, but this will update the students according to the rosters. In other words, if a student is dropped from a class, or if a student drops from a certain class, that name will disappear from that class. If a student adds to a class, the new student will appear, or there will be a new entry for that student. So this is all dynamic already. Okay, this is generated dynamically. The other thing, has to do with the classes here. These classes are pulled from a database. In other words, at the beginning of a semester, I would put into a database and say, okay, what are the classes that we want to we want the Power Server to have access to? And every time you access this page, it is actually asking the database of, okay, this is, semester, fall 2010. What are the classes that should be accessible, in this semester? And then in return, it will ask who are the students enrolled in this particular class, and it will list the students. Okay, so we are already looking into web scripting, even when something does not even appear to be interactive. So the next question is, but why do I want to spend all that time to write the scripts? I mean, why don't I just, have someone to, update the list of students and update the list of classes and stuff like that?
So you don't have to physically do the update yourself. You can do it in a database and it's automatically across the board on all your.
And it saves time, right? And also, and money and accuracy. Now, before I took this over, it was previously hand edited by a person. Okay, so if that person is not available or free to do it on a certain day, guess what? It does not get updated. Now that could be a problem at the beginning of a semester when people are adding and dropping all the time. So the instructor would lose track of what students are in the class, and grading would become a problem. Now, how do we access each individual person? Let's say we want to access this particular student. Now this does not look interesting at all. Okay, let me just redo this not so interesting thing. I click on a particular student, and this shows up. I mean, tech, come on. I mean, this is really elementary HTML stuff. I mean, so what is so interesting about this? Yep.
Search the name in the database to see what classes that person was in.
It has to go through a mechanism. Yes, it has to go through a mechanism to find out, what classes that person is taking, and as a result, display the appropriate links to each individual class. Now we have to do something like this because a student can be taking, say, CISW 365 and CISW 410 at the same time. I don't want people to put all the projects into public HTML because then without good management skills, the projects would just kind of fight with each other and overwrite each other's files, and it would just turn out to be a big mess. So that's why there's one subfolder per class that Power will automatically create depending on the student's enrollment status. Okay, and this is generated by a script already. This is not static. If a student adds a class, this will have a new entry. If a student drops from a class, that entry will also disappear. Okay, so we are looking at scripting even for stuff that does not appear to be interactive. Okay, so do we have any questions about what is interactive and what is not, and why we want to automate things? Now, obviously, with this stuff here, someone can have a full-time job just to maintain everything, just to keep everything up to date. But that means we have to spend the money to hire that person. Two, if that person makes a mistake, then the mistake is going to be made. Using a script, the only thing that can go wrong is when the roster information is incorrect, then this will pick up something that is incorrect. But the chances of that happening is pretty low. So are we okay in terms of the concept at this point of web scripting? It is using a program to generate a web page instead of having a person to hand edit everything. Now, if anyone wants to have any even more examples of interactive websites, you can go to change password. Change password goes to HTTP. Hold on a second here. Why are we using HTTP? Why do I want to switch to HTTP out of a sudden right now? What did I want to do again? What was that link that I clicked? Change password. So what if I did not use HTTPS when I changed my password? Yep, someone can sniff that out of the net. Okay, it's called packet sniffing or network sniffing. Network sniffing refers to a technique where someone can listen to somebody else's transmission. Okay, So stuff that is coming out from one computer can be captured by another computer. With HTTP, everything is said to be sent by plain text, which means if I, okay, let me just go into the web page right now so you can see what I mean by that. Okay, this is a very simple form, does not have any bitmaps or graphics or anything, interesting, but it is functional. So someone can enter the username, okay, so I can, enter a username like Smith J, which does not exist in this, particular machine, and it allows that person or that user to change the password. So in this case, let's say, this is the old password, and this is what I want to be the new password. The moment, that person clicks submit query, it will start a transmission. It will transmit all three pieces of information to the power server. If I did not enable HTTPS and just use HTTP, all that information will be sent by plain text, which means anyone who's able to sniff the connection will be able to get not only the username and the old password, but also the new password. Okay, that is not good. That's not good. But then you guys will say, but I'm careful. I would not, I will make sure that I'm not on a network that uses a hub, which is basically the only real way that someone can sniff your packets, as far as a local area network is concerned. What about your internet cafe connection? It's open Wi-Fi. What about your school Wi-Fi connection? It is open, okay? Which means someone, that is not even close to you, because Wi-Fi, can be reached from a certain distance away, can listen to all the traffic going into and out of your PC, along with your password change, submissions, requests, and stuff like that. So you definitely do not want to transmit something like this using HTTP because of that. So are we okay so far? And this one is fully interactive. I can click, submit. So in this case, it tells me that something is not working because Smith J is actually not an account on the system. It says the username is correct? No. It says to make sure the following are all true. You can tell that a programmer wrote this because who else would say make sure the following are all true? I mean, the true false thing, is a dead giveaway that it is written by a programmer. That would be myself. But it is very clear. Make sure that the username is correct. The password is not empty, and make sure it is correct. The new password is not empty and meets all the following requirements, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, you don't want to confirm that the username is correct, okay? Because if you did that, then someone can launch a dictionary attack on that one single username. If you do not even confirm the username is correct, then the hacker will have to say, okay, but I don't even know whether I'm hacking a valid user account, so the chances of breaking into one would be much lower because the person does not even know whether it's a valid account or not. So do we have any questions so far about web pages, interactive ones, non-interactive ones, and ones that are automatically generated? No questions? So do we all agree that static stuff is good, even because you can put up a lot of interesting stuff, but in the end, the automated stuff is better because you can update only one little thing, and the system will pick it up and make sure that everything is updated correctly. So that's the way to do it. That's the way of the future. Okay, any questions about HTML or HTML authoring? No questions? No questions about how does that information get onto the server, the relationship between your browser and the server and stuff like that? We haven't really talked about that. You guys realize.